At most college football programs, a quarterback throwing for 2,500 yards and 20 touchdowns is cause for a parade. If a quarterback hits those numbers at a standard Power 4 school, the boosters start collecting money to build him a statue outside the stadium. The fans buy his jersey. The coaches get contract extensions. The media calls it a breakout season. But at Brigham Young University, numbers like that are not a celebration. At BYU, a season like that is considered average. In some years, those kind of stats might even get you benched in Provo. This is the impossible standard that defines BYU football. There is a specific crushing burden with wearing the quarterback jersey at LaVell Edwards Stadium. It's a weight that's heavier than almost any other position in college sports. When you strap on the pads at BYU, you aren't just playing a position. You're stepping into a lineage. You're trying to survive a shadow cast by the legends who came before you. The premise of this video is simple, albeit maybe a little bit controversial. BYU does not just get lucky and find good quarterbacks every few years. BYU manufactures them. This program is a machine designed to produce elite passers, the way a factory is designed to produce luxury cars. But claiming you're a factory is easy. Every school claims that they are position you for one spot or another. But to prove this isn't just fan arrogance. We have to look at the receipts. We have to look at the resume that makes the rest of college football jealous. However, a resume is just a piece of paper if you don't read the names written on it. So let's look back at the sheer volume of passing royalty that has come out of this school. This isn't about one good decade. This starts with the golden arm of Gifford Nielsen. It flows right into the cerebral dominance of Mark Wilson. Then the script flips to the punk rock swagger of Jim McMahon. Just as you recover from McMahon, you get the athletic impossible feats of Steve Young. Then you move into the national championship precision of Robbie Bosco. Then comes the Heisman Trophy brilliance of Ty Detmer. Then the gunslinger mentality of Steve Sarkisian. Then you have to look at the sheer arm talent of John Beck. Then the consistency of Max Hall. Then, yet still, the modern electric playmaking of Zach Wilson. Now, most schools pray for one of these guys every 50 years. BYU has had a version of that guy several times per decade. We are talking about a Heisman Trophy sitting in the case. We're talking about Super Bowl rings on the fingers of Young and McMahon. This is not a single golden generation that came and went. This is dominance that spans grandfathers, fathers, and sons. A fluke is something that happens once. A trend is something that happens twice. But a prophecy is when it happens every single decade for half a century. The resume proves that the excellence we see is structural. It is not accidental. Really quickly, this is part 2 of our new 3-part series that we're doing on BYU football to kick off our new Big 12 Football Addiction channel. Part 2 is titled The Quarterback Prophecy. If you guys enjoy it, please hit the subscribe button for me. Anyway, back to the video. But simply listing the names doesn't tell us how it happened. If we stop at the names, we miss the engine that makes the car move. We have to then dig deeper to find the stats, to look at what's under the hood of this machine. To understand what's under the hood, we have to go back to the man whose name is on the stadium. LaVell Edwards didn't just win games. He changed the dynamics of college football. In the 1970s, college football was a ground war. Everyone ran the wishbone offense. It was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It was boring, it was gritty, and it was predictable. LaVell Edwards looked at that landscape and decided to do the unthinkable. He decided to throw the football. And he didn't just throw it occasionally. He threw it on first down. He threw it on downs where every other coach in America would punt. He installed a system rooted in what would eventually become the West Coast offense. This offensive philosophy is now embedded in the concrete of the program. The DNA of the passing game is painted into the end zones. It's a system based on timing, trust, and reading the defense before the ball is even snapped. This system created a ripple effect that went far beyond Provo, Utah. BYU became the cradle of coaches for the NFL. Look at the most offensive-minded geniuses in professional football right now. Andy Reid, the man who has built a dynasty in Kansas City, played at BYU and coached there. Mike Holmgren, a quarterback whisperer, coached the quarterbacks at BYU. Steve Sarkisian took the Texas job, calls his own plays after learning the ropes on the field in Provo. The intellectual property of how to play the quarterback position resides in this town. The coaching staff may change over the years. The names on the headsets might be different, but the institutional knowledge remains. The secret on how to teach reads is passed down like a family recipe. The specific way to teach footwork is preserved in that film room. The understanding of timing is handed from a senior to a freshman. But here's the problem with having a perfect system. A perfect system is useless if you have a terrible operator. You can have the fastest Formula One car in the world, but if you put a driver in the seat who doesn't understand the controls, the car crashes into the wall or misses a gear. So BYU had the engine, but they needed a specific type of human being to run it. This brings us to the unique characteristics of the BYU quarterback. We need to talk about the Cerebral Assassin. The offense BYU runs, often called the BYU Air Raid by outsiders, is not simple. It's not a backyard football game where you just tell the receiver to run long. It is a complex mathematical equation that has to be solved in 2.5 seconds or less while 300-pound men manhandle you. This requires a specific type of intelligence. It requires a player who values processing speed over raw arm strength. And this is where the unique culture of BYU creates a competitive advantage. The lifestyle at BYU is restrictive by design. There's an honor code. There is no partying. There's a high demand for discipline in every aspect of life. To the outside world, these look like limitations. But to a quarterback trying to master a complex offense, there are advantages here. The distractions that derail careers at other schools simply do not exist here. The culture attracts players who are already disciplined. It attracts players who are film junkies. It attracts the kind of guy who would rather break down game tape on a Friday night than go to a club. It attracts players who have been on their mission. These quarterbacks become generals on the field. They have to be. Because at BYU, the quarterback is the face of the franchise in a way that doesn't exist anywhere else. You have to understand the cultural weight. Behind the leadership of the church itself, the BYU quarterback is arguably the most visible person in the LDS faith culture. Millions of eyes are upon them. They are expected to be role models, spokesmen, and leaders. This is a pressure cooker. It breaks some people. But for the ones who survive it, it forges incredible leadership skills. It forces young men to mature faster than quarterbacks at other schools. When you combine that maturity with the complex system LaVell built, you get magic. But there is a flaw in this logic. Usually, to get smart, mature, athletic quarterbacks, you have to recruit against Bama and Georgia and Ohio State. And for a long time, BYU couldn't always get the 5-star recruits to come to Provo. So how did the factory keep running without the raw materials that other schools had? The answer lies in the build them from scratch philosophy. This is the part of the prophecy that makes no sense to outsiders. The factory that is building is so good that it doesn't even need 5-star parts to build this luxury car. BYU has a history of taking overlooked players and turning them into NFL draft picks. The prophecy isn't just about the guys who were destined for greatness. Sometimes it's about the guys who were told no by many others. Sometimes it's about the guys who came to BYU as a last resort. Because the system is so friendly to quarterbacks, it raises their ceiling. Because the coaching is so technical and so precise, it fixes their flaws. Players who would be backups at other schools become starters here. Starters become legends, and legends become pros. This depth is what protects the program from failure. At other schools, if the starting quarterback goes down with a tough injury, the season is over. The fans give up, and the team tanks. At BYU, if the starter goes down, the fans just lean forward. They know that the backup has been sitting in that same film room. They know that the backup has been learning the same engine blueprints. The system elevates the backup instantly. The floor is higher here because the instructions are better. This creates a sense of optimism that is bulletproof. BYU is never truly out of the quarterback game. There is always someone waiting in the wings who can spin the ball 60 yards downfield. There is always someone who has mastered the playbook. But recently, a new threat emerged to challenge this history. The critics looked at BYU moving to the Big 12 Conference and they shook their heads. They said the factory would shut down. They said BYU can't throw the ball like that in a Power 4 conference. They argued that the defenses in the Big 12 were too fast. They said the windows to throw would close too quickly. They claimed that the air raid DNA was a relic of the past that wouldn't work against elite athletes. This was the ultimate test of the prophecy. Was BYU just beating up on lesser teams for decades? Or was the system truly elite? Well, the last couple of years have provided the rebuttal you guys need. The transition to the Big 12 proved that the DNA works everywhere. The ball still flies. The touchdowns still happen. The quarterbacks are still confusing defenses. It turns out that physics is physics, regardless of the conference logo on your jersey. A perfectly thrown spiral beats good coverage in the Mountain West, and it beats good coverage in the Big 12. The factory didn't shut down, it just scaled up production. The defenses got faster, so the quarterbacks got smarter. The windows got smaller, so the accuracy got sharper. The prophecy has just adapted. And this leads us to the final promise of BYU football. There's an old saying that defense wins championships, and that very well may be true in the record books. But quarterbacks win hearts. Quarterbacks capture the imagination. As long as Brigham Young University plays the sport of football, the ball will be in the air. They won't revert to a boring ground game. They won't stop taking risks. The silhouette of a spiral cutting through the mountain air is the enduring image of this program. The names on the back of the jersey will change. The faces inside the helmet will age and move on, but the spiral still looks the same. It looks the same today as when Gifford Nielsen threw it. It looks the same as when Steve Young threw it, though left-handed. And it looks the same as it did when Zach Wilson threw it across his body. That is the prophecy. The quarterback factory is open for business, and it is never closing down. Now that we understand the power of the arm, we have to look at the power of the mission. We have to look at the unique mandate that guides the entire ship. In our next video, we will explore the flagship mandate and why BYU plays for something bigger than a trophy. Please subscribe today so that you don't miss it. We'll see you guys on the next one. If you missed part 1, you can click the video on the screen right now to check it out.